Hi guys, so we just bought this swing, this baby swing. It's called, it's a Fisher-Price Woodland Family Cradle-and-Swing. There's multiple models that are basically the same on the inside, but they have different features, different mobiles, I don't know, different patterns and cloths. But basically, we have an issue with this swing. I just put it together and I was very surprised about the noise it makes. So, first of all, when you test a swing, you have to load it with something. So, I have this thick book, I think it weighs about 4 pounds. I just put it in here to kind of play the role of a baby. Okay, so the issue is that when I turn it on, sometimes it makes a horrible sound. That's what I'm talking about. So that sound would happen for a couple of seconds when you turn the swing on, which would be exactly after you place the baby in the swing. Now, if you have a sleeping baby and you place it in the swing, you turn that thing on, it makes that sound, it's gonna startle the baby, baby's crying, everyone has a bad day. Okay, so I called Fisher-Price and I've asked them, is there something that they can do or I can do to fix this thing, to basically make it stop grinding like that. And they said no. They said it's normal. They said we should live with it or take it back to the store. And that was a bit disappointing because it doesn't sound. I mean, it sounds terrible, but it doesn't sound that hard to fix. So I took it upon myself to try to fix this swing. I took it apart. And I'm going to show you guys how you can basically do the same. Now, of course, you're voiding your warranty. It comes with no, implicit or explicit, whatever, all the legal disclaimers. But I'm going to show you how to take this swing apart and stop that grinding noise, which hopefully will bring a lot of joy to many families. So let's start. Okay, first of all, a tour of the swing. It looks kind of like this. I don't have the legs locked in place. I've already have the shell cracked open, but I'm going to show you guys how to actually open it from the beginning. So to get the shell cracked open, first of all, you take the battery lid off. There's 4 screws, and then under the battery lid there's 4 more screws that you take off that actually hold the frames together. And then you move down below the frames. There's 1 screw here, 1 here, here, and then just here. Sorry, this is a bad angle. See it? There you go. And the same on the other side. So you take all those apart. And once you do that, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6. You should have like 12 screws. 2 of them are longer, kind of like this long. These would be the front ones. Please make sure you keep them separate. Okay, so basically this long screw goes in here. Alright? So save them all neatly somewhere and crack the shell open, kind of like this. Careful with the wires, there's wires holding the shell. So you just put it on the side like this, really careful with the wires. Okay, and we reach the internals of the swing. So this is the motor assembly. This is what we need to actually work on. So to get this out of the swing, we need to get this thing, this white thing out. To get this out, we need to get this out, and we need to get this out first. So let's start taking this thing apart. Alright, Phillips screwdriver, be really careful, the screws are kind of tight, so just work them nicely. That's one. Alright, let's save it right here. Get the other one. I guess it's a good thing they tighten the screws really well, they won't come loose or whatever during normal use. But yeah, it's not easy to take them out. You just have to have a firm hand. Okay, take this screw right here out. It will come out with the little black tab, I guess. So careful not to break it though, because that's a sensor actually. So just take both screw and tab out like this. Make sure you save them in the order that you remove them. So we first remove these, then this one, then the tab, and so on. We'll keep going. We remove this one. You just leave it hanging like that, like so. Okay. Next, there's one screw here and one on the other side here. We take them off. These are easier actually. Okay, so careful not to lose the screws. We just want to take this out and kind of tilt it a little bit, so it's not in the way anymore. This is the spring that's actually moving the whole assembly, which goes into this tiny hole right here. Make sure you don't bend it, break the plastic or whatever. Let's actually save these screws outside so they don't fall into the frame. They don't want to go. Okay, I'm just gonna leave them there. Okay, and now we have to take out the actual motor. So there's one screw here, one here, one here, and the last one here. 4 screws are holding the motor. Take them out. Whoops. Careful not to break any wires, not to pinch any wires, otherwise you're gonna have a big headache fixing those wires. Okay, I've removed those screws. Just make sure this one is not in the way. And now we just take this thing out, like that. There's one here, and I think there's another one that fell on the floor. Let's just grab that. Okay, so far we've removed 2 screws from the front sensor. We've removed the front sensor black tab, which is right here, can't really see it, with this screw that's holding it on the frame, and 4 screws that are holding the motor assembly, and also 2 screws that are still on this tab on my swing. I would recommend trying to get them out, but they don't seem to want to come out on mine. Anyway, this is the motor assembly. Let's take a look. You can actually turn the swing on a little bit just to see how it works. Just make sure you hold it in your hand or somewhere where it doesn't rub on anything, you know, doesn't break. So when I turn it on, it will do something like that, which is kind of nice. Okay, this thing would move this thing, which would move the whole swing. There's also in the back of this, there's a sensor with kind of like a half circle there. So what we're actually gonna do, turn it off. Okay, we're gonna remove the wires from this sensor, because this will make, I don't know what this does actually, but I found that once you remove those, the motor goes full speed, okay? Like so. Do you hear that? That, my friends, is what you're hearing when it grinds like that. So, let's take this assembly apart. There's two screws right here which hold this top plate. Oops. It's hard to do them one hand. One, the other one, that plate, oops. Okay, so that plate goes here. There's the screws of the plate that I have to fish out now. One, and I need a magnetic thing. So these are the two screws that are holding the plate there. Once you get that out, this little piece with the whatever comes out as well. Save it here, and we need to take out those three more screws that are holding the motor assembly on place. These are actually pretty hard to take out, so I'm gonna park the camera. We have one. That's two. And the last one. Hold the lid. It's gonna want to fall. Okay. So I've removed those three screws, and we're left with a lid that just pops out like this, revealing the whole assembly. So saving the lid there, and here's what we have. We have the motor, the electrical motor. We have the gears, and then we have this this lever that's going. I'm gonna show you how it works. It works something like this. Okay, that's kind of fun to see. So this one just goes out like that. Save it there. And this one does not come out. This one does come out, but basically the noise that you're hearing, the grinding noise, is this one, and it's from the motor actually vibrating in its socket. See? So it's not the actual gears that are making the noise, it's the motor that has a little bit of a play in the plastic socket, and it vibrates when it goes fast, okay? So all we have to do is to dampen that vibration a little bit, which is fairly easy to do, because the motor itself kind of just pops out if you take the wires from this slot, and you know, you can just wiggle it out like that. Very easy. See, it has a tab here. This tab goes into a groove right here. Make sure you remember that when you put it back together. And so to dampen the vibration, I'm not sure what's the best way of doing it, but what I've basically done is I took a bicycle camera one of those bad old bicycle cameras, and I've cut a slice of, I don't know, half an inch or so in width from that bicycle camera, and I'm just sliding it on the motor like that. Okay, make sure it stays on the motor part, not on the rotating part, and then you kind of just put it back together, remembering that the groove goes into that slot. I'm sure you guys can do it much easier with both hands, unlike me. Okay, so it's back together. Make sure you put the wiring knot inside the case, like so. And now you need to push on the motor a little bit so it goes all the way in, like so. Yeah, you feel it kind of locking into place. So now everything is back as before we removed the motor, except that there's no more vibration. So if I turn the motor on, just like before, like magic, there's no grinding noise anymore. Again, I don't know if this is really the proper way of doing it. This is just a piece of rubber. I mean, it seems to be doing the job fine for me at least. I hope it does for you. You can use other materials too, I guess, if you have... I really don't know what exactly. Don't use cloth or anything like that, because cloth might go out of this slot and get in the gears and mess everything up. Don't use something that's flammable, obviously. And yeah, just keep an eye on it after you're doing this kind of fix. Okay, so now we're gonna put it back together and see how it sounds in real life. So I'm gonna park the camera while I assemble the motor with those 3 screws. Don't forget that you first put in the lever assembly. Don't forget this one out. You go like this, okay? And then the top case, which goes on like that. Just make sure before you put the top case, make sure the wiring is properly seated here so you don't pinch the wires. Okay, just put it back in, 3 screws, and we are all set. This is from this point forward. It really is just the opposite of the disassembly. Just do the steps backwards. I'm gonna keep filming as I put it back together anyway. Okay, so we have the motor case back together, putting the spring thingy in it. You'll see some grooves, it's easy to fit in here. Put the bracket that's holding it in place, like that. Those 2 screws are holding the bracket, so just pop them in. Remember, we've disconnected so at this point you should have this, okay? Remember, we have disconnected this sensor at the back of the motor. Before we connect it, let's just give the motor a spin, see if it makes some noises or whatever. It still works, so turn it on. Beautiful. There's no grinding noises anymore. This is just because it's not fixed, it's vibrating on the frame there, but there's no grinding noises inside the assembly. So now we can connect this back on. Make sure you don't pinch any wires again. I know this is kind of a pain, but yeah, it'll save you a lot of sleepless hours, you know. Okay, so we sit the motor assembly back into place, again making sure we don't pinch any wires at this point. It kind of slips right in. We tighten those 4 screws back together, like so. I mean, really, how hard was it? How hard was for the manufacturer to just include some dampening material between that electric motor and the plastic case? I mean, it must be like 5 cents more on a $200 swing or $150 swing. It's ridiculous. And for them to just say, basically, live with it, I mean, young parents or parents in general of small babies, fresh parents, I guess, they need all the help they can get. And this swing doesn't quite cut it from the store. Alright, so this is all nice and tight. Motor is attached to the frame again. The next step is to put back together this plastic piece. Remember, the end of the spring goes into this tiny hole right there. This is actually the one that's making the clicking noises when it goes click, clock, inside this groove. So I'm guessing, I don't know how exactly, but you could put some varnish, some tiny varnish on it. I'm not sure what. I'm not gonna do this because I'm not that concerned about that noise. I can live with it, but it's just an idea. See what I mean? It goes in there, and when it changes direction, it just vibrates there a little bit. But again, I'm not concerned, but there's just something that if it's annoying for you, you may want to do. So putting together these 2 screws will tighten this plastic piece back. And now we have to put together this sensor. Okay, sit the sensor properly. There's the longer screws that are holding the sensor in place. And the last piece that we want to put back on is this plastic tab that goes between the 2 grooves of the sensor. You see these 2 things here? The holes from the plastic tab go between them. This is actually an optical sensor. I'm guessing it senses how fast the swing is swinging, so it cuts back on the motor depending on the selected speed. But yep, make sure you put this back. Do not forget this one. This is kind of important. Otherwise, your baby will bounce maybe a little bit too much. Alright, so this is back. All snug. This is here. This is snug. We have these wires connected back in. Do not forget them. This is what makes the motor go slower. Kind of an optical sensor for the motor speed. And yeah, we basically have it back together. We can actually test it. So turning it on. Well, it's not super quiet, but it's not that loud anymore. Okay. Let's starts swinging nicely. And this is actually not that bad anymore. The baby probably would sleep through this noise. Okay, and the last step of putting it together is obviously just put all the screws back on the shell and you're set to go. All in all, I think it's probably a 2-hour job from start to finish. Yeah, things to look after. Make sure you don't pinch any wires, make sure you connect all the wires back together. And that's it. Let me know what you think, and I hope this comes in handy for some of you guys. Thank you. See ya.